Coming up on episode 107 of the Behind the Back podcast, we go over the Eagles-Giants Thursday night game. Will the Eagles be able to bounce back? We talk a little bit about some of the news that happens here, and we give our scores for that game. Then we pivot on over to the San Francisco 49ers and a fun matchup they got in prime time with Tampa Bay. This game got flexed, so we got a lot to talk about. With a high-profile matchup, do we think the Niners have what it takes to get the Bucs on the road? And then, guys, it's that time. The Kings are back. It's preseason. We get to talk about what we've been, some of the news that we didn't talk about in the offseason, some of the changes, what we're looking forward to, what our expectations are with this team. What are we going to get out of these guys and Doug Christie? And then we give our win total predictions for the year, guys. So stay tuned. With that being said, let's get it. All right. Welcome back to another episode of the Behind the Back podcast. We are your hosts. I'm Marcos Conan-Negron, and beside me here, as always, is Ben the Jet. Reds, Ben, for the time being, the San Francisco 49ers are the number one seed in the NFC. How are you feeling, brother?
Saw it coming, since the offseason started. I knew this team was going to come out on fire and cook the league. No, just happy to be here. It's been a fantastic season so far. It's been interesting, but ultimately, I'm in a good mood.
I love to hear it. And not to mention, guys, we get to finally talk some Kings. It's basketball season. They are playing right now as we speak, as we record. But I mean, it's preseason. We're going to be able to find that link here towards the end of the game. But we definitely needed to spend this time to talk about it. But before we do, we got to talk our football. We're not going to do any rehashes of last week for those who want to hear what our takes was from our awesome games. And the Rams had an instant classic with the Niners, and the Eagles failure against the Broncos. Both of our post-game pods are up in the feed on our channel, so please go check it out. If you're new to the show, welcome. If you give us a like, give us a subscribe, I promise you guys we will earn your time. So stick with us. So let's start with the game that's happening today at the time of the recording, but tomorrow, the Philadelphia Eagles going on the road to play in New York against the Giants, MetLife Stadium that's been highly criticized again this year. So the Eagles get to go there on a short week, coming off of a loss at home against the Broncos, which was, kind of a gut-checked moment for this team because, all around the league, the sky is falling, right? So, you lose once for, in 20 games or, you win 20 out of 22 games and all of a sudden it's all going to come crashing down, right? So early takes on this game is this should be a get-right game. The Eagles offense tried to air it out last game, and it kind of bit them in the butt a bit. The numbers were there-ish, but the consistency wasn't, again. So the biggest question is going to be okay, are they going to start running the ball more in this game? Are we going to see them try and get Saquon going in this game against his former team? We all know, Saquon is the all-time leading rusher at MetLife Stadium, so we're going to see if he can have another awesome game. But the rushing offense hasn't really been there this year either. So does that mean that against this Giants team, this is the perfect opportunity against the second worst rush defense in the league, albeit they do have four good pass rushers four good defensive linemen that cause problems. But if not now, it feels like if not now, when, right? So I want to pitch it to you before, I get into my whole spiel. What are your early impressions of this game?
I mean, you kind of highlighted it. This is the week that you got to break this open, especially this ground game. Saquon Barkley, dude, this is the best running back in the league on the ground. Last season, he was a front runner at MVP at a certain time, and there are so many arguments as to why he should have won our MVP. Obviously, it went to Josh Allen for reasons that make a lot of sense. But, dude, the fact that Saquon has struggled so much to get anything going, and he's not in a situation like Christian McCaffrey where he's coming off of an Achilles tendonitis or anything like that. And albeit one for one, to make a comparison, the Eagles offensive line is still better than the Niners offensive line. So you guys should be finding some success on the ground. It's made no sense to me. So my take on it is like you said, if not this week, when?
And I think that, to your point on the offensive line, I think that what we're seeing now, I think with this team in general, is the price that, and the Niners feel this. I mean, feel like they feel it regardless. But most teams that are in our positions that have gone through sustained success, a lot of deep playoff runs, like sometimes these guys just start falling apart and they need a little bit more rest and they can't get it right now, right? So I think that I would say damn near every person on that offensive line outside of maybe Tyler Steen is dealing with some sort of an injury. And we're just not as productive. And obviously, it's not even just that. Like to say that, oh, everyone's playing her. That's not the case. The Eagles are having fundamental issues that weren't issues last year. And Sirianni always praises these details, yet we're the slowest team in the NFL by a long shot in terms of getting to the line and when we're snapping the ball. And it's not even, we thought we were having issues with that a little bit in 2024 and 2023, but there was this guy on his name is Day Niz, that's his Twitter handle, and he is a huge Eagles fan, lifelong. He does a bunch of advanced stats for the Eagles. He charted like a sicko. He charted every snap of when the Eagles snapped the ball, and charted it compared to other years. And the 2025 Eagles are way back there, significantly more. So something's not happening in this play process. So that has a mixture of Patullo, Sirianni, Hurts. Like this process isn't going fast enough. And Hurts has developed into this guy who wants to manage the pre-play. Like you're seeing him call different, audibles and things like that, checkdowns to, AJ and Devontae, and Smitty even admitted that they weren't on the same page. So they need to get on the same page. And I think that's this week is going to be weird because it's a short week. So they don't have practice. So it's not like you're going to get that. It's more of them just focusing. And I think that they're getting to that point a little bit where it feels like they feel like they've been there, done that. A regular season game is a regular season game, kind of like, let's get to the playoffs and then we'll just be able to turn it on, which is a dangerous spot to be in. So that's kind of like my take on like this is a fixable issue. But will they be able to fix it within the next few weeks, or do we have to wait until the bye week? That's where I'm most nervous.
Well, and my concern is if you don't fix it, you've already got indications from AJ Brown that he's disgruntled, even when you guys are winning ball games. And then you've got, Devontae admitting that like there's some miscues and some miscommunications. Like there's already a little bit of, I'm not going to say that they're like fighting by any stretch, right? But there's things that from a chemistry standpoint aren't there. And when you don't have those, when chemistry isn't going, I mean, you saw it with Debo last season, right? And you saw Debo choking out Tabor Pepper after, and I get it, Jake Moody missing his third straight field goal, but you start to see these guys kind of crash out and it affects the overall team. And that's the point you don't want to get back to. You guys won the Super Bowl. You guys didn't lose the Super Bowl like the 49ers did. So the vibes are a bit different from that standpoint. But where it is similar is like you said, it's at this point, you're so accustomed to just playing competitive playoff games and being in those atmospheres. And then you're accustomed to making it to a bowl and now winning a Super Bowl. You're like regular season game on a Thursday night against the New York Giants with nobody. And we're going to get into that in a second. It's like, I don't really, think that we need to focus too much here. But with the NFC, the way it's shaping out right now, week to week, teams, you don't know who's going to take, like the 49ers with 25 injuries leading the NFL are in first place. Nobody would have guessed that, knowing if you knew they were going to have 25 injuries, right? So with how competitive this NFC is, like you guys got to find some rhythm. The Eagles have to find some rhythm quick here. Otherwise, your schedule doesn't get easier. And that's when things might start to kind of fall apart in a way.
No, I agree completely. And that's why these next 3 weeks are so crucial. And then, you really get to try and figure out how you're going to come out against, the Packers after the bye week. And that's going to be the start of what's going to be a nice little gauntlet basically till the end of the year with like a Raiders game mixed in there. So it's like, it's going to be a lot of, that's where the questions of will a collapse happen then because it's going to be back to back to back really challenging games. The schedule favors them a little bit more than 23 did in terms of rest and all that stuff. So it's going to feel a little bit more week by week, but it's something to be concerned about. So let's go into this game. Let's review kind of what's happening. So when we talk about the injury report, the guys that were not practicing were Landon Dickerson, who had an ankle injury in the Denver Broncos game. He had to, sit out, and he's going to probably be out multiple weeks. And I hope he does. He needs rest. He is not healthy. And Grant Calcaterra suffered an oblique injury. He caught a ball and he got rocked really hard. I forget it. I don't think it was Hufunga, but it was someone else. And it was slow to get up, and I guess that kept him out the rest of the way. So he'll be missing this game. And he questionable was Jalen Carter it's listed as a heel. I mean, he's been hurt and playing hurt this whole time too, so that's not surprising. And on this list now is Nakobe Dean, who we mentioned last week was activated on the physically unable to perform list. Like from that, he got his 21-day window to come back and practice, and they said he was a full go today. And that he's listed as questionable, but he could play, which scares me when you're talking about MetLife Stadium and he has a surgically repaired knee. I don't think the best place to try that out for the first time in over a year would be MetLife Stadium. So that's something to monitor. I don't know. And because, fortunately, Jahad Campbell's been playing like the defensive rookie of the year, he's been incredible and giving us top 10 linebacker play. So he's kind of been, the need to rush Nakobe maybe isn't there, or that maybe provides a little bit of versatility. I don't know if Nakobe, I don't know how he walks back in and just immediately takes that job from Campbell. I don't think that's the case anymore. I think Campbell earned that right. So it'll be interesting to see if we do see him, how it'll be. Maybe it's special teams. Maybe they mix him in on a blitz or two. So we'll see. Good to have Nakobe back, though. He's a leader on this team. He stuck around with the team during the offseason. He said he was with the team every day. He didn't do his own thing during the recovery. He was there the whole time. So love to see a team player like Nakobe Dean back. When we talk about the other side, so Jackson Dart was dealing with a hamstring injury. He is going to play, but it was something that was ailing him after that Saints game. And out for the New York Giants is going to be Darius Slayton, their second best wide receiver, who was their number one with Malik Neighbors out. So Jackson Dart doesn't have many targets to throw to. He has his favorite tight end target, Theo Johnson, who caught 2 touchdowns last week. So we'll see who, kind of what their offense looks like. But also on the injury report out is Demetrius Flanagan fouls with a hamstring, and another linebacker, Swayze Bozeman. And all 3 of their safeties were listed as questionable throughout the week. So they're not really that healthy either there in New York. So Thursday night game, kind of ugly. So when we think about, the overall keys to this game, how the Eagles win this game, you're better than the New York Giants. It's a Thursday night, though. We saw what happened with a much more injured, much less talented, team in San Francisco playing the fully healthy, contending Rams on the road on a Thursday night. And it was a awesome experience. That can happen here for the Eagles, too, if they get complacent, if they play with their food too much. You guys have this is the game now where you can really try to be balanced, try to win, try to set up the run with the pass and the pass with the run like you guys have been trying to do. Last week it felt like you listened to the receivers. This week, don't listen to anybody and just do you. Stop. Be balanced. So operate. Try to get Saquon involved. That's not going. Get the pass game going. You have the talent to beat this team. It really is that simple on the offensive side of things. Just win with your talent. Jalen just needs to stay consistent, continue his streak, leads the NFL right now with his streak without throwing an interception. Knock on wood just in case. Don't want to be the one. We'll see what happens, right? But the offense should find a rhythm in this game. And then when we talk about the defense, it's just going to be Dart's a little weird, right? You're getting a rookie, you got Scatabo in the back, so you got the rookie crackheads, kind of leading the way. And the thing about them is their talent, they may be a little bit devoid of talent right now, but that doesn't mean that those guys can't go out there and make a play or two. So they're rookies. You saw last week against the Saints that they were all over the place, turning the ball over like crazy. 4 turnovers between the 2 of them. You can replicate that this week, but because Vic Fangio is a mastermind against rookie quarterbacks, he's going to make life really difficult for Dart, who really doesn't have anyone to throw to. I expect Dart to try and panic and run out of the pocket. But his hammy, I don't know how much that's going to limit him, but that doesn't stop him either. He doesn't slide. He just goes for it. So maybe a hit to the head from Jalen Carter might teach him how to slide a little bit this week. So we'll see what happens there. But I think the defense just needs to keep everything in front of Dart and make him beat you, because I don't think he will, but he does give me shades of 2021 like Jalen Hurts, where he is elite with his legs and can make plays if you let him. He might not be the most accurate, but if you're going to let guys run open, you still got to play sound. So just stay in front and make life really difficult for Dart. And just what I really want to see is just a much cleaner game. Less penalties. I want to see a more functional looking offense. That's kind of just, I just want to see a cleaner game against an inferior opponent. This shouldn't be, you can win by 10 and I still feel good about it, so long as you're doing all the right things and you're in control the whole time. But if this is a close, ugly game where they're just not getting anything going, the freaking New York Giants defensive front kills our O-line and Jalen's getting sacked 6 times and it looks really bad. Then against the New York Giants, yes, the Giants beat the Chargers, but we don't know what the Chargers are anymore now that they're hurt, right? So it's that world exists. So that's where on Thursday night, that could be the difference if things go wrong. So if I had to pick a score for this game, I'm confident. We have owned this rivalry. We've won 7 of the last 9 against the New York Giants. It has not been close, and I just think that it's going to be more of the same. The Giants had that win with Dart against the Chargers that elevated, the new QB change, but that only lasted so long, especially with all the injuries they're dealing with. So I anticipate the Eagles being able to run away with this one, and I would say a score. I would be very disappointed if they don't score this much either. I would expect a score of 34-17, Philly.
I don't think I can give Philly a 30-point game yet. I need to see it. I need to see this. Yeah, I need to see this team actually put it together against a crappy team right now. And with last week's showcase, I'm hesitant to say 30, but Jackson Dart, the aura that he had in that game against the Chargers was awesome. But then he followed it up, last week with a really bad loss against the Saints. And he was abysmal in that game. He wasn't good. I think he had 2 interceptions. So, Jackson is the kind of quarterback that an Eagles defense or a defense who just shows up with the right scheme, you can make him see ghosts. And that's kind of what I'm looking for. I'm looking for a defensive showcase from the Eagles in this one. I want to see you guys kind of flex your muscles. I know it's not the team of last year. It's not the same defense by any stretch. You guys have lost some personnel. Now you've got some bang, injuries here and there. But the reality is you guys still know how to play as a team. And I've seen you guys put together a defensive showcase at timely times this season already. And that's kind of what I'm anticipating here. It's get Jackson off the field at the right moments, get your offense back out there. Offense needs to find a groove. If your offense finds a groove in this one, I can see 30 points, no problem, right? But until we really see a genuine groove from this team, I want to see the hum of that offense again. It's hard for me to say 30. So I do have the Eagles winning this one. I've got it 24 to about 14. So I think it's about a 10-point game. And again, this is the week. This is the week you got to see a little bit more from that offense. You need to see some hum from it. You need to see Saquon really start to find his footing on the ground. And I think, playing against the former team of his, and just all the emotion with that. Obviously, he has already done this battle before. He's already done this dance. But he spent some years in New York, and he knows that field. And the last time he was there, he snapped, right? And so I think being in New York gives Saquon just a little more energy. And that's kind of what I'm looking for in this one. I want to see a big game from Saquon. I want to see him break 100 yards. I want to see him break 120 yards on the ground. Not all purpose, just on the ground. I want to see him really break open, because if he breaks open, dude, I think a lot of this offensive woe that you see with the receivers and the lack of packages and wide receiver routes and stuff, it revolves around not being able to use Saquon as a decoy, right, on RPOs and things like that. So getting that ground game going, especially early in this one, is going to be a big key for me. I want to see you guys break it open and establish that dominance, own the possession. And I think at that point, it won't be a ball game if you factor in all that.
I agree. We need to go back to what has made us successful. I think that's the funny part about the Eagles. Now I've kind of gotten to a point where the way people talk about this team, it's like no one's happy when they don't pass enough. No one's happy when they don't run enough. At that point, it's like they win however they want, and that's how they were winning, just however they wanted, not what anyone else wanted them to do. And it's hard. It's heavy as the head that wears the crown, right? Like, you're the champs. You have this target on your back. Everyone's going to give you your best shot, their best shot. And you're always going to be dealing with this narrative of why people don't think you're going to be able to do it again and continue, because it's really hard to do in the NFL. So, the Eagles have been, by their standards, underperforming. By every metric, they're a mediocre football team. They've been playing like one, I should say. But the talent on this roster isn't. But there's a level of complacency. And to final thoughts here, final news. During the week, after the game, AJ, Jalen, and Saquon had a meeting together, basically a captain's meeting. I know there's more captains, but those three met together for a few hours, it was reported, and had a nice talk. Maybe got a chance to hash some things out. We don't know exactly what the details were, but it seems like it's a matter of, okay, guys, it's our job, as the leaders of this team, to get this stuff right. We've been causing too much drama of our own. We need to go back to being the team, go back to what we know we can do, because this team isn't bad. And this is a great collection of players that just need to figure it out. So I think the Eagles can, but I'm not afraid by any means to say that this isn't as strong of a team as it was last year, because of, the injuries. We're literally just not the same right now. And, there are teams playing way better than us right now, but that was also the case last year at this time too. The Eagles, Sirianni always says, we don't like to peak in September. We want to peak in January. So that's just, the Eagles, yes, they need to figure this out, but they have time. So let's move on to San Francisco. They had an awesome win last Thursday, and you get the mini buys, so a lot of guys, hopefully, and you'll get to break the news here, whether what the injury situation looks like now. But I believe that they play the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, a team coming off also of for their fourth win in a row like this. They've come back with a game-winning drive in the fourth quarter to win the game. So all of their wins have been exactly the same, and their one loss was against the Philadelphia Eagles. So let's get into what you're looking at, what you're looking for in this matchup against, what seems to be a horribly injured but red hot Bucs team. What is on your mind with this game?
So it's in Tampa, and 2 weeks ago you talked about the weather and how it was 102 much out on the field for both teams. Well, the very first thing I did when I saw we were playing Tampa and it was in Tampa was check what the weather was going to be. And this was 10 days ago when I knew Tampa was on the schedule. I'm like, 10-day forecast. And I saw it early on. It was saying like 88. And I'm like, okay, as long as it floats around the 80s, we're going to be okay. So we're just a few short days away from it, and the high is expected to be 85, the low is 65. So we're dodging a bit of a bullet there, right? Because it's still football in October. You still get your trickle of hot days, but they've got a little bit of like residuals of a storm. So it's going to be humid there, but 85 degrees. And, this game got pushed. It was originally a 10 a.m. game. Now it's pushed to the 125 time slot. So it's a prime TV slot. And, you're going to get the highest point of the day, the hottest point, but it's not going to be the 105 degree. And it's going to cool off as, the end of the game kind of gets towards. So I'm excited for this game. These are two fun teams right now that are cooking when it doesn't look like they're going to cook. Let's talk about the Buccaneers. They're coming off a big win versus Seattle, which I was a big Bucs fan last week. I hate Seattle, and the 49ers getting that win on Thursday, again, stress-free football Sunday. I was watching that game, and I'm like, man, they're up 13-0. Like, they're cooking Seattle. Seattle comes back, takes the lead 14-13, and it just goes back and forth from there. And late in the game, the Buccaneers tie it up 35-35. Sam Darnold throws a Purdy-like pick where it hits the lineman in the helmet, deflects off, and the Buccaneers pick it off. And that sets up a game-winning field goal. So Buccaneers got a really good win in Seattle against, arguably the best defense in the NFL right now, one of the best defenses. And they put up 38 points. So this Buccaneers offense that doesn't feature Mike Evans, doesn't feature Bucky Irving right now, is finding ways to score. And a lot of that is because of the wide receiver I kind of talked about when we did our predictions. And that was who I believed was the most NFL-ready wide receiver of this draft this year. And I'm going to get to him in a sec, but they are finding ways to win. And that to me is like where it kind of stacks up against the 49ers, because the 49ers having 25 injuries right now throughout the season, and going into this one missing a lot of players, they're finding ways to stack wins as well. They're finding ways to, scheme up a game properly and really utilize whoever they're putting out there, that next man up mentality, to the best of their advantage. So the Buccaneers, I just talked about the injuries. You've got Bucky Irving, who's out, Mike Evans, who's out, Chris Godwin, he's questionable, but he's likely to play. Tristan Wirfs is coming off of an injury from a few weeks. He came back. He is dealing with a little bit of uncomfortableness, but he is expected at this time to play. But the other big one to note is Zion McCollum. He's their right corner, he's their cornerback. He is likely to not play as well. He was seen in a sling as of Wednesday, so not participating in practice at all. So they're a banged up ball team. But then when you look at the 49ers, and again, we're recording this game on Wednesday, so nothing is finalized per se, but 49ers had a practice today. These are the guys who did not participate, okay? Stay with me here. Stay with me. All right. So we got Robert Beal. He got an ankle. Alfred Collins made a great stop. He's got a knee injury right now. Yetur Gross-Matos, knee and a hamstring. Jawan Jennings, everything. Ricky Pearsall, knee. Brock Purdy, obviously his toe. Jordan Watkins, his calf. Now, Trent Williams and Christian were also non-participants today, but that's due to rest. It's not related to an injury, so nothing to worry about there. Limited participation was CJ West, Upton Stout, Mac Jones, Kevin Givens, and Kalia Davis. Full participants were Kendrick Bourne, Thomas Morstead, Malik Mustafa, whose practice window just opened up. So super hyped about that. I doubt he'll play Sunday. That's just my initial thoughts. But if he plays, I feel like it's rushing him back, but it's exciting nonetheless. And then Michael Williams. So plethora of injuries across the board. Nothing new here. I am nonetheless excited for this matchup, mainly because this is another opportunity, hopefully, to see Mac Jones. What we've seen him really do the best, in my opinion, was process. You see him processing and going through his reads at a really, really high level right now. And attribute that a lot to the Kyle Shanahan system. Attribute that a lot to just his, at this point, he's kind of a veteran in the NFL. He's been around. He's been in a lot of different systems. This is the best system he's been in by a mile. So I'm excited to see him against Todd Bowles' defense. Todd Bowles' defense likes to blitz a lot. They don't have top playmakers on their defensive end, but they have a good enough scheme and a good enough package under Todd Bowles to make any game interesting. With that being said, you let the Seahawks put up 35. You've let a lot of teams put up many points against you, right? So the 49ers are probably going to find ways to score here this week. And I'll get into that a little bit more here when we talk about my keys in a minute. But Todd's aggressive with the play calls defensively. Baker's a dog. I mean, this year, dude, 65% of his passes completed. He's averaging 7.5 yards per attempt. He's got 10 touchdowns and 1 interception. His QB rating for the season, 104.4. So he's cooking. So this is a good battle against two quarterbacks, that Mac Jones, he's really trying to establish him. I talked about this in my post game. He's really trying to reestablish himself and prove himself in the NFL. And he's trying to win himself a full-time job at this point. Baker Mayfield, having come from three bad scenarios before landing in Tampa and getting this shot with Tampa and last year putting up MVP numbers in a way, this year proving that he could be a potential MVP candidate. So this is going to be a fun matchup between these two quarterbacks who have a lot to continue proving. Now, that wide receiver I was talking about that we still have to be careful of, who's the most NFL ready of the rookie wide receivers in the NFL, is Emeka Egbuka. He's playing awesome. And I can't say that I anticipated this level of play, but I mean, obviously you expected to see Mike Evans out there. So you expected him to be, wide receiver 2, maybe play that wide receiver 3 role. Right now, dude, he's wide receiver 1. And even when Mike comes back, you wonder, is Mike wide receiver 1? Best 1-2 punch in the league at that point. So offense is humming. Defense is good, not great, middle of the pack. Before I get into my keys, I want to get your analysis of this game, because I know you guys played Tampa just 2 short weeks ago, and it was an interesting game, to say the least. So give me your rundown on what you're expecting, what you're looking for in this one.
I think with Tampa, what you're going to get is that they're never, no matter how safe you think you are, they're never out of it. I think that they have found, despite all the plethora of injuries, just like you guys have, they have found ways to overcome that. They've proven that they can win in many different ways, but it mainly has been because Baker's been able to win a lot of these shootouts. I don't know how sustainable it's going to be, and then they kind of caught up to them in the Eagles game, right? Because it was the same formula. They're a team that doesn't play a consistent full game, full 4 quarters. They have quarters where they're making mistakes, quarters where they're dominating, so they can get in their own way too. So I do think that, where the Niners, have a chance here in this game is if you guys play clean football, and which is what you guys have been doing, especially against the Rams, like you guys play consistent. I think that you guys will be able to handle whatever the Bucs throw at you. And yeah, Todd Bowles, I want your take on it. Just, how healthy, Mac Jones really is. Obviously, we kind of saw him be a warrior and deal with some, issues against the Rams. So if, Bowles will blitz, and we saw against the Eagles, one thing that Todd Bowles did was he adjusted though. So he's not afraid to deviate from whatever plan he has going into it. He blitzed the crap out of Jalen, and Jalen cooked him. After that, didn't blitz him at all and played ton of zone, and we didn't have an answer for it. Now the Niners, scheme beats zone, so they will have an answer for when that, it switches up. So that'll be the question of, do they dare Mac Jones to beat them by pressuring him and trying? But I think they can do that. Mac has shown that he can first read, let it rip as soon as, if he feels that pressure. So I think that this is going to be a fun matchup because neither one of you guys are at full strength. So it really is going to be, I think this will be a very good coaching battle between Shanny and Todd Bowles. And obviously, Saleh will come into play here as well. It's going to be a tough ask. They're not going to be able to run on you guys that well. Rachaad White is like their guy now because Bucky's out, but it's like, he's always been like I'm going to get like 3 yards kind of guy. So but the problem is if you don't pressure Baker, then he destroys you. It's if you can get him under duress a little bit, he's not perfectly accurate. But if he has time, he will cook you. And he's turned into a truly legit threat with his legs. Like he can bail himself out of the pocket in some of these crucial backbreaking runs. So it's like he forces you to finish every possession, and you're not safe. It could be 3rd and 16. It doesn't matter with the Bucs. They'll be able to put up points and score. So I think this one's going to be a barn burner. I think both offenses are going to have what it takes to take advantage of injury-laden defenses this game. So that's kind of where my assessment of like these two matched up together.
No, it's a great assessment. You made some good points that I want to build off real quick before we get to the keys. You mentioned it was going to be a, Kyle Shanahan versus Todd Bowles and obviously Robert Saleh. Well, historically, Shanahan has done very well against Todd Bowles, both as a coordinator and as head coach. And so you've also seen a lot of success on the ground game. Similar vibes over here, brother. The 49ers can't run the football this year. Newsflash. But they're the number 1 passing offense in the NFL. So I'm curious to see, does Christian McCaffrey kind of get going this week, considering everything, considering Mac Jones while being limited at practice and looking good in his limited reps, he is still dealing with that knee injury that is going to linger realistically all season long until this offseason when he's able to really get off of it and heal up. So I'm curious to see how much does Christian break that open. Now, as far as the 49ers and, the barn burner thing here, I can see it going both ways. I can see, a high scoring game and the 49ers really only being able to keep up doing that. I can also see them stalling out, but still finding ways to do it defensively. But I don't know that both can happen this week. And the reason I say that, you're coming off arguably the best coached game in Kyle Shanahan's regular season career against the Rams. And it's arguable, and I can recall a few games that are similar, but this was a damn good coached game from all levels. And the execution was perfect too. And I mean perfect. And this is where I'm like, can you really do that again? Or are you going to see something that you saw in the previous weeks where a couple things don't go your way, and then you're giving the ball back to a guy like Baker Mayfield, maybe in the fourth quarter, where he's got a chance to go down and win the ball game, right? So as far as getting pressure to Baker Mayfield, I'm definitely concerned. You don't have Nick Bosa anymore. And we've seen now without Nick Bosa, they got home to Stafford once last week, and it was a really good blitz, worked really well. It was timely, perfect blitz and perfect sack. If you can't dial up pressure in this one from a blitz package or from your just defensive line rushing four, which I don't think you can at this point, then it's going to get hairy because Baker, like you said, is going, when he has time, he's going to dot you up. That's how he is. And he's the confident, trash talking guy that I've loved ever since he was a Sooner. So that'll kind of take me into my keys here, because this game is not going to be easy. But there's something that the Bucs do poorly, very poorly on the defensive end. And the 49ers also do poorly on the offensive end that one of us has to break this week. And that starts with the number one key: maximize the red zone trip points. And what I mean by that, the 49ers, they score 42% of their red zone trips as a touchdown. That's good for 28th in the NFL. The Bucs allow a 71% touchdown rate in the red zone. So one of these teams has to give. And one of the ways the 49ers can break this game open and hopefully give themselves a cushion going into the fourth quarter and owning the possession is by maximizing your points and your trips in the red zone. Maximize those trips, get touchdowns, and don't settle for field goals. And that leads me to my second point. Shanahan, coming off of your great game, needs to be aggressive. He was aggressive in the last game, went for it a couple different times on fourth down, made some tough calls here and there. He needs to do more of that this time. You said it best. If there's any lead versus the Buccaneers, it's still really not safe against this Buccaneers team right now. So you got to control this game. You've got to, maximize those trips in the red zone, and you've got to third point, own the possession battle like you did last week. You need to keep the ball out of Baker's hands as much as possible. Baker has been incredibly clutch this year and throughout his career even. Build a lead, build a cushion, and limit Baker's potential to lead a game-winning drive. And you're going to set yourself up, obviously, for a win at that point. So those are the keys that I'm looking for in this game. I'm excited. Like I said, it's the 125 time slot, so it's going to lead right into Sunday Night Football. I've got the 49ers. I'm back to my faithful ways. I'm sorry that I left. I should have never left and lost faith, but I did. I've got the 49ers winning this game. I do expect it to be a closer game, though. And I've got pretty much a barn burner. I've got 30-28 Niners.
Okay. And I was kind of like what you did a few weeks ago. I think it was against this very Bucs team. I wanted to kind of hear, kind of how you were feeling, get your temperature on this game, because this one is going to be, I think it's going to be a highly contested, super close game on the road. And I don't know. I like how the weather, I think the weather's going to be manageable. It's not going to be insane. So that's good. Right. And it's just gonna. This is a tough one to see, right? Because every time I watch this Bucks team, I just think like they're 4-4 right now in those kind of scenarios that they're in. Because the Eagles game, they didn't get that close. They didn't get the chance, and they'll at the very end to take a lead, right? They were behind by too much. So I really do wonder if it did come down to it, kind of like how it did with the Rams game, right? If you guys get the stop this time. And I think that this would be the week where for the sake of how do I describe it? For the sake of common wins, for the common opponent matchups, I wanted to pick the Bucks in this game, but my heart wants the 49ers to win this game. I think it's going to be this is going to be like as close as it gets. I think it's going to be like, well, you said 30-28 for you, right? I'd say 31-28. But I would have 49ers winning. It's going to come down to the end. It's just going to be a matter of, can you guys be the one holding the ball at the end and versus Baker? I think whoever gets the ball at the end, I think is going to seal the deal. So I think that's just kind of, this is going to be the kind of game it is. So I'm really excited for this game. I'm glad that it got flexed. This is how you properly flex games with good teams, guys. So this is what I like to see. So definitely, I have the Niners winning 31-28.
Yeah, and again, keep an eye on Mac Jones' status throughout the week. It looks like he's gonna play. I would be shocked if he didn't at this point. But I'm not gonna lie to you. If he doesn't play, I don't think Adrian Martinez, who'd be filling in as QB3, is gonna get the job done. At that point, take the Bucs absolutely to cover everything. And I don't know if I mentioned it. The Bucs are 3-point favorites going into this game as of Wednesday, as we're recording. So, 3 points on your home field. It's pretty much a 50-50 toss-up at that point. So take that as you will, guys. But this is an exciting week. This is going to be a great game. Don't miss this by any stretch. Grab a beer. Grab your best food. It's going to be a fun game. I'm excited for it. And, I can't wait to do the post-game later as well.
I had to ask you, I didn't bring this up last weekend, something we should have brought up for Thursday night. Did you watch the game in Prime Vision, or did you watch it regularly?
I didn't, but I did watch, and it wasn't even like a playback, but I watched like a YouTube breakdown of the Prime Vision. Dude, it's sick. So like I've got to say, like, if you haven't checked out the Prime Vision, guys, watching a game in Prime Vision, I can't do it live time because my girlfriend hates watching those games in that perspective. She's like, I can't stand this. We need to watch the game regularly. But if you haven't checked out the Prime Vision, it's really cool because it breaks down, like, you kind of see what your team or what any team is doing, the kind of routes that they're running, what kind of looks they're getting, what a quarterback might be missing, or what you think they're missing it at one angle versus what they're actually not missing, So it's pretty cool, but I haven't checked it out other than just a YouTube video.
That's fair. They actually on Sunday Ticket, it looked like after the game they had so for those who have YouTube TV and Sunday Ticket, it looks like afterwards, I think the morning after or the later on in the day, they give you the Prime Vision playback for the whole thing. So feel free to check that out if you haven't. For those who are like curious what Prime Vision is, but still want, so like what I'm gonna do, I'm gonna watch the game normally, just take it like a normal broadcast, and then on my rewatch, I'm gonna do the Prime Vision. So then because like you're right, to be able to get that view, to be able to like see the different angles. Now I get to see my lack of scheme versus getting to watch what a beautiful scheme you guys ran last week. It was kind of annoying. So I know I'm gonna be frustrated when I see it. So yeah, so I thought it would be interesting to do Prime Vision. But I wanted to get your take on that. So yes, we have both of our teams winning this week, guys. Let us know what you guys think. For you Niners fans out there, do you guys think you guys are going to surprise the Bucs and pull off a win on the road? And for Eagles fans, how much are you hoping that this team can just get back on track this week? So we are going to take a second here because it's time, ladies and gentlemen, to talk about the Sacramento Kings. We are back, baby, so stay tuned. We will be right back.
All right, we're back on the Behind the Back podcast. We're going to talk about some Sacramento Kings basketball, and we haven't talked about the Beam team in honestly, I think it's been a couple months. Yeah. It's been a slow off season. I'm going to rehash that here as we lead into it, but it is refreshing to be talking about the Kings, because the season hasn't started yet. So until the season starts, we're feeling good, but let's talk about this off season. So it started with that loss to the Dallas Mavericks in the play-in. I love the necklace. It started with that loss to the Dallas Mavericks on our home court. It was horrendous. And then within 20 minutes, Monte McNair gets fired. Within 10 hours, Scott Perry is hired. We have a new general manager. We have a new direction, or we're trying to figure that out. One of his first moves that he makes is a massive move in the draft. That is to move up into the first round, where he took Nick Clifford. We then drafted Maxime Reynaud. Both these guys go into Summer League, kind of pop off, looked really good. And, we talked about Summer League originally before the draft even happened. And obviously the Kings pulled out of the Summer Classic or the Cali Classic. And we're like, well, it kind of makes sense because it's not like we're running anybody special or fun or new, right? It's nothing crazy. And then they draft these two guys. We go into Summer League, and this is one of the better G League team or Summer League teams it's in this whole tournament. And they went the distance, almost got the job done, came up just short. It was really frustrating. But you saw a lot of these flashes from the youngsters. So then fast forward a bit to July, Dennis Schroeder signs with the Sacramento Kings. And the deal at the time, you're like, okay, is it the good deal? Is it a bad deal? Even still, you're kind of wondering. And we'll get into why it could be a good thing. But then, fast forward more, now we're in October. We're 6 days into training camp, and vibes are pretty high. Everything coming out of training camp so far has been high intensity. It's been a lot of togetherness. You hear a lot of these guys talking about how this is the most together a training camp has felt for a lot of these guys. Dennis Schroeder has been on 10 different teams, not 10 different training camps per se, but he's been on 10 different teams. And he was saying that one of the biggest things that stuck out to him is how together this group is, from the coaches to the team to everything so far, even the organization. Talking about how, even Scott Perry, he's out there at training camp and he's showing his face. A lot of these guys, former players, current players still on the Kings, were mentioning Monte McNair never really showed his face in the facility. It wasn't that common. So you're seeing a lot of good things coming out of training camp so far. One of the biggest things is Dennis Schroeder is getting gassed up by the organization, by a lot of the players. He's a seasoned vet in the league. He popped off in FIBA in the FIBA Cup play. So, if he is how this organization and this team is advertising him, then this contract would be pretty damn good. But they're starting their game tonight. It's just begun, so we're gonna catch the bits and pieces here, but we're also going to obviously go back and watch it, and we'll see how much of a factor Dennis Schroeder is in his 8 minutes in the game tonight. But there was a lot of things missing from this team at the end of last year. One of the biggest things was a point guard. Another thing was identity, and it feels like the Kings are taking the right steps towards answering a lot of those questions. And so I'm going to toss it over to you here, because there's a lot of varying opinions and feelings about this team right now. You're coming off of a season where you had the highest of highs going into last season. You were expecting this team with De'Aaron Fox and Keegan Murray and Sabonis and Malik Monk and then newly addition DeMar DeRozan to do something great. You were expecting not just a playoff, but top 5. And this team completely fell apart. You lose your head coach. You lose your franchise player. You lose a lot of your identity. You don't have a point guard. So tell me how you're feeling going into this season. Where are you at with your fandom of this team? I know you love them as much as I love them, but we've had a rough go at things. But the early takeaways from this team are vibes are higher. They feel together. Feels like they might be rallying.
So I don't disagree with anything that you said. I think that the moves that the Kings made this offseason were necessary. I think that obviously, they could have went splashier, right? They could have tried and went crazy extreme and get like a Trae Young or something in the building, right? But there is something to mention that, the reports of them being close, that's great. You want to hear those things, during training camp. And this is a core that hasn't really had a full year together yet because this is all post trade deadline, post firing, post things like that. So you can see that I actually, from some of the videos I've seen, it does seem like that they're vibing. Now, that can be true that the vibes are up and, Doug has implemented his system in his first training camp. Like, that's all well and good. But like I need to see it first. And I think where I'm at now, I've kind of regressed back into our safe space as a Kings fan where it's like I have no clue truly what my expectations are. Part of me would be happy if this is just a 500 team because for me I feel like through no fault of the Kings, the rest of the league is better. And I think that especially in the West, it's a competitive space. And considering some of the injuries in the East is more wide open than ever. So in the West, it just feels like yeah, we could. I feel like we're destined to be a play-in team. And again, that could still be winning 43 to 45 games, which would be I think a step in the right direction compared to the way things finished last year. That's just me. And that's the thing where we'll talk about like expectations of it all. But I think that like I agree having Dennis as having a true point guard over no point guard is an upgrade. And maybe some of this, connection really happened post De'Aaron Fox. Maybe De'Aaron Fox and that whole drama with him and Mike Brown and that whole stuff really did take a toll on this team. And now that they're much more time removed from it, it feels like a new team. That's great. But the Kings are still the Kings. Vivek is still the leader of this team. And we weren't like not subject of talks in the offseason just from an organizational standpoint. So as a team, I just need to see it to believe it. That's where I'm at. I think that we have all the pieces. Yeah, like I do believe that we are one of the wider variance teams in the NBA. I think that if everything goes right, we're definitely a top 6 playoff team if everything's cooking. But I could also see a world where we're like 35, 36 wins out of the playoff picture, competitive almost in every game, but we keep shooting ourselves in the foot. My biggest concern is you can preach defense. Doug Christie is a defensive-minded guy. You can preach those things, but you don't have the collection of defensive-minded players to just say, like, yes, DeMar and I've seen reports that DeMar and Zach and all these guys are, like, working on it. Guys who weren't particularly good at defense or put in that effort are attempting to put in that effort. That's all well and good until you lose 3 in a row, then what? So I need to see how this team responds to adversity, what happens when things aren't going their way. And I need to see what this team looks like when things are going their way. I need to see like what the ceiling is. I need to be reminded like what this team can do. That's kind of where I'm at. I think Levine can. I have to remind myself. Levine can put up 45 points anytime he wants. DeMar can, he can also pop off and just hit every mid-range shot he takes. Domas can maybe he'll operate more out of the perimeter and be more aggressive the way he likes again. But like, we also have a gajillion guards who are all quality players, but how are we going to diversify those minutes? We were big last year with Jonas, and that felt like a nice change of pace having that size, and we're not the same level of big this year. And we have smaller, thinner centers. Maxime may fill out. He's a rookie, though. So, like, to put all of our chips in that basket and stopgap guys, and then just a bunch of guards, that's where I feel I'm like, the problems of the Pelicans loom and the team and the Magic teams that are just big loom large again. That feels like a large issue. And it's not even just those two teams. It feels like every team in the league got bigger. It just feels that way. So it's weird to me. So we kind of are deviating from the norm a little bit. So so I just need to see it to believe it. That's my early vibe so far right now.
So on the defensive note, offensively, like you said, I think this team is honestly, I could see offensively this team, if they put it together the way that we want them to, this team could be, I'm not even kidding you, like a floating top 10. I'm not saying they're like deep in the top 10. No, I think they're floating top 10. But defensively, this is where the biggest question mark with this team is. Because while you can put up all the points you want, you can still lose games 140 to 136. And I mean, this happened to the Sacramento Kings. And so defensively, where it might be a little bit different this year is and you kind of highlighted both of them. Last year you had the bad vibes, even while De'Aaron was in Sacramento, because it was a slow start to the season. It wasn't, you didn't get out hot like it was. Yeah, like preseason was ugly, and then you roll it into the regular season, and it's a slow start. And then there's all these reports of like, is Mike Brown losing the locker room? And our guys really truly bought into his system. And defensively, they're terrible. They're a bottom, 5 team at one point. And then obviously the trade or the firing happens and the trade happens, and this team really plummeted from a vibes perspective. I mean, early takeaways, they were great, right? And they went on that nice little streak. But after that, they came back to earth, and it was like, okay, this is who the Kings are now. And once that kind of settled, you see the same poor defensive tendencies. This year, where it could be different between Doug Christie and Mike Brown is Doug Christie played the game. Doug Christie is a Sacramento legend. He cares more about the success of the Sacramento Kings than maybe any other head coach did previously, since maybe Rick Adelman. So Doug naturally is going to give off this, you're going to buy into my system, whether you like it or not, vibe, because this is my city and this is my team kind of thing. And it's not a selfish thing. It's more of like a follow me because we could do something here. It gets you fired up. Does he have the right scheme for it? Who knows, right? That's left to be said. Mike Brown was a defensive-minded coach, supposedly. No, I mean, not supposedly. When he had LeBron, when he was on previous teams, with previous teams, his teams led in defensive categories many times. Then he gets here to Sacramento, and the team is bomb offensively for a season, but tank defensively in his tenure here. So the systems are going to be different, but from a bought-in standpoint, it feels like this team is a little more bought into Doug Christie and what he's preaching right now. Doug Christie's like, not that he's alluding to it, but he's said things that make you feel as though he recognizes this team isn't going to be hot out the gates defensively. They're not going to be great defensively, but he's going to be asking on a consistent nightly, every play basis to just be bought in and do the dirty work defensively. And that means putting your chest into guys, like doing the things you just don't want to do defensively. Like if I'm guarding you and you're doing a whole bunch of moves, the last thing I want to do is go side to side, right? But that's defense. And I remember him saying on a broadcast years ago, I think it was with Grant Napier, unfortunately, but he said defense hurts. Like defense isn't fun, but those are the things that, win you championships. Those are the things that put you in a winning position. So if the team really buys into that standard, which again could be a long shot because it's not like DeMar and Zach LaVine are going to come out and be defensive monsters and necessarily want to be when their entire careers they feasted offensively. But if you can get some form of more bought-in play from these guys, I think if they just make a few more plays here and there at timely points during games, offensively, I feel like they can keep up with a lot of teams. But again, there's so many questions with this team. You don't know how well this team is going to mesh out the gate. Training camp, like I said, has been high intensity. Mike Brown also did a high intensity training camp last year, and you felt like the Kings came out sluggish to start the season. So now, you question, are the Kings going to come out sluggish this season as well? How do they come out in this first game against the Raptors? Or, again, it's going on right now. I don't have the score in front of me. I'm a little scared to pull it up. I'm hoping they're dominating. But are they coming out slow? Are they starting slow, right? So we'll see. There's a lot of questions with this team. I am excited to see how this team pans out. again, they've got so many pieces for offensively. It'll be a fun team to watch. I think people are going to like Dennis Schroeder. Dennis Schroeder is not a bad basketball player. I don't think you should look at him being on 10 different teams and think of that as a bad thing. It's been situational. Like 8 of those teams have just been between players figuring out who their next guy is. The Kings are one of those. So take that as you will. The season starts in just a little over 2 weeks now. I think it's actually 2 weeks on the dot. I'm excited for it, but we'll see how the season goes.
Yeah, I think there's reasons to be optimistic, but there's also reasons to just wait and see. And I think that's not a bad thing anymore. I think the expectations of, oh, the Beam team, like, oh, here we go, we're gonna get 50 wins this year, like it's time. Like we raised the expectations and it came, blew up in our face as fans. So it's tough to be in that spot. So I think it's okay to wait and see. I think it's okay to kind of see what this team looks like, because we do have to take into fact, we can almost have to treat it like the Niners, how you approached it going into the season. This isn't the product that the Kings are stuck with for the next 5 years. This team probably might not even look the same by the trade deadline. We'll see. So it's gonna be a wait and see. It's gonna be a to be decided. And it's going to take more time than just this year. So I think this year it's okay to have lower expectations. It's okay for this team to be 500 just because there's obvious reasons why they would be. But if things are clicking on all cylinders, then maybe it is Doug Christie figuring things out as a head coach. Maybe it is, Levine staying healthy for a whole year and developing this rapport and guys finding out how to play within this new form of the offense. And maybe these young guys, maybe they find a good, rotation for some of these young guys to get them involved so we have fresh bodies and our defense, holds up a bit. And we're not playing DeMar 38 minutes a game. So it'll be interesting to see, what do we do differently this year that helps us stand out from that makes us different from the end of last year and makes it not feel like the same roster. Will Dennis give us that bump? We'll see. And same thing for Dennis. I don't want to put too much pressure on him. He's the first point guard, true one, that we've had since Fox. So to just automatically compare his impact to Fox would be foolish, and they're not the same player and they don't have the same impact. We just need Dennis to be a quality starter who doesn't lose us games and keeps us in it and runs our offense. That's all we should be asking of him at this stage of his career. That's what he's been throughout the past few years anyway. So hopefully consistency and not, being traded and, all over the place maybe helps him out this season in particular, but we'll see. So I have faith in the Kings. I'm not as jazzed as I was, but I'm still absolutely locked in and ready. And part of the reason we're having this discussion now, yes, it's preseason, it's the first day, this is a good time to do it. But the next 2 weeks for us are going to be very busy. We're going to be not in town, so we're not going to be able to give you guys a full recording. So we felt like this was the appropriate time to kind of give our preseason take on the Kings going into the season. And then we are going to truly dive in, and it will be the week after the first week. So we'll still give you guys updates. We're still going to do that. And just so you guys know, you should still expect our regular, scheduled programming. It's going to be slightly less next week. So, just stay tuned for that, but we'll keep you guys posted as we go. But in terms of the Kings, I think we're back where we should be, teetering on the mediocrity. For me as a fan, this feels like a safe space to be in because it gives me some hope, but I'm also not going to let myself get hurt. So that's where I stand right now. I'm coping really hard right now.
So, all right. I can't stand when you cope. No, it's okay. The over-under for this season for the Sacramento Kings per Sportsbet MGM is set at 35.5 wins. I want to get your take. I'm going to tell you my take right now. If I think it's an over and under, I'm going over, but not much. Okay. I think it's going to be pretty mediocre team, pretty mediocre season. At this point, I'm almost begging you, surprise me. And the last time that the Kings truly dominated their over-under spread was in 2022-23 when they had the breakout year under Mike Brown. Their win total was 34.5. They went 48 wins, right? Don't expect 48 wins. The next season they followed it up, also achieving over, but last year coming under the spread last year. So I'm saying over, and I'm saying they probably win 38 games, which is close to what the Kings were last season. I don't think that I think, the schedule is kind of tough. There's some tough spots in the schedule where, especially right out the gate, 13 of the first 18 games are against playoff teams from last year. And then you get into the December and January and you have all these back-to-backs. Yes, you have home games, but you've got a stretch there where you have like 3 back-to-backs in like a 2-week span. And it's unfortunate. Like, the Kings always get the shit end of the stick when it comes to the schedule. But it's kind of a reality of being a pretty consistently mediocre team. At this point, like I said, I'm just kind of asking this team to surprise me, but I'm going to settle with this being a gap year. I think we make a splash move, maybe a splash move, or we set up a splash move at the trade deadline, and then we kind of go from there to see how, the offseason progresses and so on. But I like I said, I think 38 wins feels about right, which is the over for the Vegas betting odds.
I'm surprised you went that low. I thought I'd get a little bit more optimism out of you in terms of your score. So that's interesting. For me, I agree. I do think this is an over year. I do think that we're going to face challenges, but I truly believe this is a 500 team. And if I do feel that way, I have them. I didn't think I was gonna be the optimistic one in terms of the win total, but if I'm taking a guess, I would say 42. And I think things are gonna go our way. But again, I still want to see it first. But like, if I want to bet on what this team is more likely to do, like, are they more likely to get 42 wins and like sneak into that 10th seed and like, be in play every game? Yeah, I think that's the world we're going to be living in, where we're scrappy in every game. And it's just going to be how many of them can we win versus, lose on our own, by our own accord. So that's where I have them. I have them at 42. There's a lot to like. Again, there's a lot to be nervous about, and will we get consistent play, and will we run into the same issues with size and just in-game consistency? That's going to be the things I'm going to be paying attention to, but I do think that they have enough firepower to overcome those things at times for the most part. So leave them at a mediocre 42 wins this year for me.
And I can see 40. I can even see 42, but above 500 at that point, it would surprise me. I think and maybe that's like the number that I got to play with in my mind, is the over 500 number. Because you just look at the Western Conference right now, bro. And like you said earlier, like every team got better. And yes, while you could say the Kings marginally got better, it's not to the extent as some of these other Western Conference teams. So it's tough to kind of gauge where this team's going to be. The other thing too is like, how quick does Houston get off to a start here? Because, I know we see them early on, and it's like, is John Morant healthy through the rest of the season? There's a lot of questions. Are the Warriors going to be a competitive team, having not made really any moves up until, a couple of days ago? Yeah, without Horford. So there's a lot of questions in the Western Conference. To see how this is going to shake out is going to give us a good indication probably by like December of where this team's at, and especially kind of where the Western Conference is at. I would say 38 is my low, 40 is my high. I don't see more than 40 wins, but I would love to be surprised.
No, and that's totally fair. So do we have any final thoughts before we head out there? I think this was a good conversation on the Kings.
Do we still believe in the beam? Is this like, I want your opinion on this before we dip, because the question right now is like, is this truly the beam team anymore? When you look at beam team 1, there's like 3 guys left from the OG beam team, and OG beam team hit different, right? That hit different for Sacramento in general. Is it safe to call this the beam team anymore, or do they got to kind of like come out and prove something before we can call them that, just, maybe on our podcast?
No, I think that's a very valid question because I do feel like the beam itself, the gimmick, that celebration is so cool and unique. It would suck to have to just say like, oh, this team isn't deserving of something that cool. But I understand that like that was part of the reason we did it was because we were a cool upstart team that had this whole thing that everyone was so excited to see. But I think we can. I think this team earned just a little bit benefit of the doubt. You know, to try and make this thing work. I think we have like a good 2 years of like if we played bottom tier ball for the next 2 years, then they'll probably be like, all right, let's switch this identity. Let's not lie to ourselves. But I think that I think they're going to be competitive enough and win enough of these they'll win some high level games, some games against better opponents who are going to be up there, and that's going to charge us up. And I think the beam will stay around for a little bit. It's too cool, and we've invested too much not to. Like that's I feel like it's not something that can be so easily getting rid of. But yeah, so that's where I stand on that. But I think that I think that this is going to be an interesting season. I have no clue what to expect. So that's why I'm excited for it. And for you guys watching right now, we're watching the game. This is again before we didn't even want to watch the game while we were recording this because we wanted to get how we felt before we see this team in action. We have no idea what's going to happen. So what are the minutes going to look like for some of these young guys? Are they going to prioritize playing some of these vets early to see if maybe we got some juice in the playoff standings before saying, you know what, let's let all these young guys really get some run. Who knows? Like, are we going to be playing DeMar a gajillion minutes this year? Like, I really do wonder what answers Doug Christie has to when his game plan doesn't work. What's his counterpunch? Like, does he have those things in his bag this year? The coaching staff's a little bit different. Like, I'm curious to see, but I'm confident in our Kings that they will be able to put something, a decent product on the court this year. So, with that being said, guys, I think we're going to end it right here. This was episode 107 of the Behind the Back podcast. You can hit us up at behindthebackpod13@gmail.com. For all y'all watching on video right now, all of the links to our socials are up above. For all you audio listeners out there, the links to the descriptions are down below. Please give us a like, subscribe, rate, review, follow the show. We're almost at 200 subs, guys. We really appreciate all the love and support as we are slowly growing this channel bit by bit. We love doing it. We love talking about our teams each and every year, and this is the best time of year. We got everyone involved again, so that's exactly where we want to be. Nothing better. But like we mentioned, the next couple weeks we're going to be out. I'm going to be out of town next week. Ben's going to be out of town the week after that. So we're still going to get stuff on the feed. We still want to do previews for our games next week. We're still going to have our post games. I'll have mine out tomorrow night, or Friday, I should say. I'll have mine out Friday, and Ben will have his out on Monday. And we'll still do a preview pod for the next week, so on and so forth. So we'll get that out to you guys, so then there's still something on our feed. So don't worry, we'll still get plenty of the Behind the Back podcast in our pretty faces. So with that being said, guys, I'm Marcos Conan Negron. Beside me here, as always, is
Ben the Jet Reds.
all right, y'all. We love y'all. We will talk to you in a little bit, but we'll still be there. Peace.
Peace.